Hello, I'm Mr. Williams, and I am the yearbook teacher along with Mrs. Watson and Mrs. Wagner, and we are working together to teach you and help you create this year's yearbook. And something we kind of talked about was I am the chef, and there are my sous chefs. So my sous chefs will lead you through what theme is today. And so I wanted to create this video to walk you through some stuff. So theme, you're going to be creating a theme with a group of people on your team, your theme team. And what is a theme? So something to think about with a theme is that's what drives the yearbook. That is what we think about throughout the whole book. It gives us the story, it gives us the feeling, it gives us the vibe for the school year. So what you want to think about with the theme is it's when visual meets verbal. And so it's like a visual metaphor. You don't want to be too literal. You don't want, you want it to kind of be a metaphor. You want it to be symbolized, to mean something. So visual is what you think about with your design, your fonts, your colors, your graphics, any design piece. And then your verbal are any of the words that can tie into the theme. And so when you think of your theme phrase, then what are some other verbals that can tie off of that theme phrase? Because you're not going to use the same word over and over again. You want to use synonyms or use that word in different phrases to meet the verbal. So here's an example from a yearbook. It's from 2005 and it is definitely old, but it does a good job. So this is from Columbus North High School in Indiana, and their theme was O. And if you notice, we've got some repeating things already happening on the cover. It's a black cover. We've got the fun turquoise. We've got that big bold O font. And if you notice, the exclamation point is square. And the pictures at the bottom are also square. And they're goofy pictures of people like just having like an exclamation face. And so what you're going to probably think about seeing with visual verbal and a theme is things are going to repeat. So when you open the yearbook, you're going to notice now that the squares repeat. So over here we've got the boxes and the squares repeat, and it's actually introducing sections of a yearbook. Or no, it says who the people were in the photo, so they're giving credit. And then on the right side, you notice that the O is back, the turquoise is back, and now we've got new words. So the verbal phrase is O, but the spin-offs or the extra words that you want to give are wow, I know, hey, yeah, and I'm in. All very exclamative, exclamation words. Exclamative is not a word. And they all have exclamation points on it, and the exclamation point has a square. So you probably recognize that you're going to see lots of squares. The word O is going to repeat, and that turquoise color. So you might see some bright colors, and that square is going to like overlap or do different things. So then we go to the next slide, and you see like what's called the opening. This is the first page in the yearbook that explains the theme. It tells it what it means. So if someone were to sit down and read that text in the circle, they'd be like, "Oh, oh, that's what it means." Notice though that we're doing different things now. At this point, this is when color wasn't exactly cheap and cheaper. Most yearbooks are in color now, so we did used to print them in black and white, even in the early 2000s. But what you're going to notice is the circle is there. What is circular? The letter O is circular. So now you're going to see circles pop up. The squares are making their comeback. The page numbers at the top of the page right here are also in squares, and we've got more photos in squares. So what's new though is we've got some text explaining the theme, and we also have captions explaining the photos as well. And so there you have that. Go to my next page here. There we go. Again, just repeating here, we've got the circle, we've got O and wow, we've got photos and boxes. The O is in big color. So the thing with the theme is you're going to be repeating things throughout the book. So you want it to look similar. Very much like when you see McDonald's ads, they all have a similar look. Or if you go to and looking at shoe ads, Nike has a similar look. You see the swoosh everywhere. So for this year, we want to have a similar look throughout the book, and everything's going to repeat. Sometimes, though, it's going to look kind of different. Like this one, we don't really have a lot of squares, but we do have a circle. And so just gently, the circle's there. But if you look closely, you're going to see the boxes right there in the lines. So something to think about. The boxes can show up in very faint little ways. So when you do your theme, you can make it do different things. And it can just be subtle, and it doesn't have to be in your face all the time. So here's a regular this homecoming page. And so again, you see the squares happening here. So we've got squares. We've got, now we're playing on 5 minutes before. So this is something that doesn't really have to deal with the theme O 5. O 5. It does have to do with the theme. So instead of just dealing with the O and the squares, now we're playing on the number 5. So that is cool. And then we've got boxes and captions and all that thing. So there you have it. This theme is a pretty well thought out theme, even if it's in black and white. So, visual meets verbal. So, in the look of the book, the shapes, fonts, and design, they tie into the words and the phrases of the book. So, it's repeating. And sometimes we force that. Last year's theme for our yearbook was Not Only One Direction. And when you think Not Only One Direction, we were playing with the idea of the roundabouts, we were playing with the idea of street directions, and that everyone can kind of do different things, but to get to the same ending point. And we went with the scrapbook theme. And so I guess you could loosely say that a theme is, not always one direction. It's scrapbook, it's messy. So you can kind of be loosey goosey, but you want to make sure your visual and verbal tie into each other. And even if they don't match up completely, you can kind of force that and make it work because, and then it repeats and it'll do its thing. All right. Went too far. Here's one of our yearbooks. This was I forget which one it is, like my 10th yearbook. And this was right when block scheduling was new. And so, of course, our theme is going to be all about something with block. And so the phrase thinking outside the box. And so we went with thinking outside the block. So we did play on words. And then obviously everything was going to be very boxy. And if this yearbook could have been full color, it would have been amazing, but it was mostly black and white. So we had lots of blocks of color. Our font choice was very blocky, and we even like tilted things so it wasn't completely straight. It was nice and kind of like slanted. So then, what's repeating? The blocks are repeating. The colors are repeating, very vibrant and bright. The font repeats, and you just see that over and over again with every page of the theme, and it just brings it all together. You know it belongs to this year. And that font repeats. We've got stories, we have quotes, but we wanted bright colors. And then we did the musical page. And so since it was, again, we're not really outside the block anymore, it's the musical. And so you just want to make sure with pages, you want to continue playing with the idea of the font and inside. We used a lot of words like outside, inside, through. And so what you're going to notice, I went too far ahead, is, thinking inside the block. We had thinking, acting inside the curtain. It could have been outside the curtain. So we had a lot of those things. And then we did some fun things with like text wrapping and stuff. And then again, you see the repetition of New Kids on the Block is in the word block, middle of the block. So if you think about it, look at all the elements that are repeating through this book. And that is what you want to do when you think about your theme. You really want it to repeat, 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 repeat. Oops. So, elements of your book. When you're thinking about theme and you see theme, you're going to see the theme right away on the cover. That's the first place people see the theme. And so you'll be working on a cover. A spread is 2 pages that come together. So for a yearbook, you're going to see, you'll be playing around with the idea of 2 pages at once. So for example, let me make my screen big. This is a yearbook spread. So it's 2 pages, acting as one, and that's what you're going to do. It's one big giant rectangle. It's almost like an 11 by 17 paper. So you'll be designing spreads, not one page, but 2 pages together as one thing. Let me shrink my screen. Another thing you're going to do is a title page. A title page is the first page in a yearbook where we see school information. You have some yearbooks in your room, so when you open them, the first single page is the title page. So we go from the cover to the title page, and then you have the opening. And the opening is the first opening spread. It's the first 2 pages of the book that introduce the year to students. There are more fun pictures, some text explaining the theme, other fun design elements, whether we cut out backgrounds from photos, we have really big text, we have see-through images, all kinds of stuff. So the opening are the first 2 pages where the theme is truly introduced and explained. Then we have sections in the yearbook. It's like chapters because the way we do our yearbook, we break it up into chapters, and there's different ways we can do that in a book. But you can do seasons. We can do like late summer. We could do early fall, winter, late winter. We can't really do spring because the spring doesn't get in the yearbook. So we could do something seasonal. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can break up your book that way. We typically do sections, and every section is a chapter. So it just depends how you want to organize your book and what the chapters are. Remember, we have to include school pictures, we have to include school athletics, school clubs, we want to include classroom activities, we want to tell stories of students. And so some of those student stories could be outside of school lives or things that they're doing in the building. So typically, our sections are an opening section, which we do all kinds of fun things with it. Last year, we did a page on administration, we do the musical, we did just fun quotes from kids around the building, we did a behind the scenes where we interviewed some of the staff members who aren't really in the spotlight. And then Officer DeWald took some photographers around the building to get pictures of rooms that we never see. So in the opening, we can think of all kinds of fun, different stories to tell. Then we have a sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade staff section, obviously with our school pictures and stories containing those people. We do performing arts, we do athletics, and we do clubs. So I call them extracurriculars now. So anything that's after school or outside of school. So you'll be in charge of thinking about things for the section. Because a divider that introduces each section. So it's like your big chapter page. So when you open the two pages, you know you're in the sixth grade section because it's big and bold and it shows sixth grade and it has a fun name for sixth grade. And you're like, that's sixth grade. So that's what a divider does. So you'll see those, and I'll do a better job hopefully explaining those to you. But you probably have already seen them flipping through your book without realizing it. And then we have a fancy word for page numbers is the folio tabs. Folio tabs are just a fancy word for page numbers. So we design page numbers, as weird as that is. It's part of the theme. They can be really simple. They could be really like big and funky. Like some of your books have done like really big numbers, but they're kind of faded, kind of in the background. So they're kind of whispering to you, but it's a loud whisper. And then additional things to think of. So you'll be working with your team, and you're going to think of other places where the theme can show up. You know how we do headline treatments, colors, fonts, graphics. What stories could we write about that tie into the theme? What's a question we could keep asking over and over again that ties into the theme? One year we did a whole thing in the yearbook where we asked a question at the bottom of every single spread, and we interviewed five different kids, and we didn't have their picture; we just had text, and it's in the turquoise yearbook, which you should have in your room. And you'll notice questions and answers at the bottom of every single page. It was really awesome. Great way to get as many kids in your book as possible. Um, so there you have it. Your job, hopefully you understand a little bit more, is to create a theme for this year. And so we're going to study a few themes a little bit more so you can kind of get your brain wrapped around what a theme does. And using any of your notes that you've taken, you can then make sure you include those things in the theme creation that you create because we have no clue what this year book theme is going to look like. It's a big blank white page and it is completely up to you. So, with the help of Mrs. Shannon, Mrs. Wagner, and I, we will team up and hopefully help you. And well, we will help you. It's not hopefully, and guide you. And then we'll have a really tough decision figuring out which theme will be the theme. So, good luck, everybody.